In this video, we're looking at the 7 key trends in the Canadian workplace. And we want to take a look at these key trends because they define the workplace. This is a very dynamic workplace. It's one of the global leaders. The Canadian economy is in the top 10 in the world. And here are some of the reasons why it is the top 10. These trends are very important for anyone seeking to get into the Canadian workplace to understand these trends and to adjust to these trends. The first one is higher education. And higher education here is very important because employers believe that those with higher education have skills. They have skills as a result of the education. They have capacity. They have capacity to move the workplace forward, to contribute to the workplace, to contribute to the bottom line of the workplace, to make sure that they are able to be competitive. And they also have knowledge, right? They have knowledge of their area, their specialty. And so higher education has become so critical. And immigrants coming in with higher education, right, they have more chances of getting to the Canadian workplace. Because again, employers believe that the higher the education, the more skills and the more capacity and the more knowledge the person has, and the more they're able to compete within the economy and outside the country as well. So higher education has become so critical in the workplace today, and employers look for those with higher education to differentiate them from those that don't have higher education. For example, if you have a bachelor's degree, that's good, but there's so many people with bachelor's degree in the workplace that you're competing with a lot of people. So the higher you go in education, the less competition it is, and the more successful, the more likely you're to be successful. All right, so the second trend is contract versus full-time. Contract versus full-time, what does that mean? It means that employers offer contract employment as opposed to full-time for the most part. Now, this is not to say that employers don't offer full-time, they do, but most of the offers are contract. Perhaps 6 months contract, 9 months contract, 1 year contract. And the reason for that is the employers want to make sure that they have the right person. They don't want to offer full-time right away without, knowing the kind of person you are in the workplace, without assessing your skills, without assessing your work ethics, without assessing your knowledge and your contribution effectively. So contract gives them an opportunity to do all of those things, because when you're on contract, they're really not committed to you. And once the contract ends, they can say, well, thank you, we are moving forward. And even within the contract, they have clauses that say, you can, with 2 weeks notice or so, or 1 month's notice, you can terminate the contract on either side. The employer can terminate within 1 month or 2 weeks, depending on what it says, and the employee can terminate as well. So contract is because it's a trend, and it's important for those seeking a place in the Canadian workplace to understand that when they get contracts, they should accept it. As a matter of fact, grab it with both hands, because in most cases the employer is checking to see if you're suitable for the position. And if the answer is yes, they'll be more than willing to offer full-time after the contract is over. And also it saves them money because they don't have to pay benefits. They don't have to pay benefits for the most part, and it saves them money, and it's a win-win situation for them because the contract person is working hard. The contract person is giving 100% because they are looking for full-time work, and the employer is getting 100% from a contract person without paying the benefits that they would have paid to full-time person. And so it's a win-win situation for employers. But again, for those seeking to get into the Canadian workplace, if you get a contract offer, you grab it and do your best to get the permanent full-time position. The third trend is networking. Why is this important? Well, networking is so critical because today, the way jobs are being advertised is pretty much it's pretty much the network system, the referral system, right? So in the Canadian workplace, the referral system has become a key aspect of the workplace, where they depend on referrals, where employers depend on referrals from those that know the candidate. For example, if you work for a company, they call the manager at the company and say, we're looking at this person. What can you tell us about this person? What can you tell us about their work ethics? What can you tell us about their reliability? What can you tell us about their dependability and so forth? Right? They rely on referrals because they believe that those you have worked with know you better. Rather than you coming for an interview and spending 3 hours and smiling for 3 hours and they don't know who you are. They don't know who you really are. Right? So that's why networking has become so critical. Networking has become so critical that employees seeking, seeking employment should, network, should open their LinkedIn account. They should be on social media. They should be networking, have a business card, and distribute when necessary, and so forth. Attend workshops, attend job seminars, and those are the places where you can make connections with people in your area or specialty. Make connections so that you're able to, when there are opportunities, you can, interview for those opportunities, and you can improve your chances of getting those opportunities. Networking is so critical today because of the referral system. The referral system simply says that we are not really interested in the interview process. We just want to ask those that know the candidate and ask them to recommend the candidate. And if they recommend the candidate highly, the chances of you getting the job is very, very important. It's very, very high. And that's why networking is so important. And some of these connections can be made only by networking. So the need for networking is so critical in the Canadian workplace. Number 4 is the rise in self-employment. Now, a lot of Canadians are looking towards self-employment for 2 reasons. One, they want to be financially independent. And the second reason is that it's very difficult to secure a well-paying job. And so a lot of immigrants, especially in the Canadian workplace, say, well, I'm just going to be self-employed. I'm just going to put my savings into this business and be self-employed and be independent in this area and hire others to work for me and so forth. The rise in self-employment has become so critical in this area, right? Because a lot of Canadians are moving towards self-employment. 68% of Canadians are hired by small businesses. And most of those small businesses are, run by those individuals, families, perhaps a group of people, perhaps who have decided to be self-employed and start a business and hire people. 68% of Canadians are hired by small businesses. This is a high percentage. And so the rise in self-employment is very critical, and the government recognizes that because the small businesses are the engine of the economy. And the government supports small businesses in many ways with tax breaks, with grants and loans and training and capacity building and so forth, because they know that self-employment is critical to the economy. So this is one of the key trends in the Canadian workplace, where especially immigrants are going to self-employment as a means of becoming financially independent, to determine their own income, and also to avoid the difficulties or to bypass the difficulties in the workplace of getting sustainable jobs. The 5th trend is the rise in technology. And this means that you have to know technology, right? You have to be vast in technology to be successful in the workplace. You have to train, you have to get certification, you have to have knowledge in technology. There is no industry today in the Canadian workplace that is not fully, does not have technology, right? It's fully industrialized, there's technology all over the place. Every single industry, service industry, health sector, educational sector, manufacturing sector, all of the sectors out there, tourism, they all have technology. And so if you're going to the Canadian workplace, you have to be proficient in technology to be looked at by employers, right? And what does that mean? It means that you know the different aspects of technology, whether it's social media, whether it's a Word document, whether it's Excel, it's PowerPoint, whether it's programming, whatever the case may be. You have to have certain level of technology to be successful. Because the trend now is technology, and the first question most employers ask during the interview process is, tell us what technology that you know. Tell us how proficient you are in technology, and how can you use that proficiency to move our company forward. These are questions that are asked during the interview process. And so the rise in technology is so critical today in the Canadian workplace that you have to have some measure of competency in technology to stand a chance of being hired in the Canadian workplace. And this is a very, very important trend to note. The sixth one is the need to be inclusive. What does that mean? It means that the workplace has to be all inclusive of one, women, two, immigrants, three, the youths, right? They should be inclusive of these groups. Now, yes, there are women in the workplace, but do they have positions of authority? Are they in the boardrooms making decisions? That's the question that should be asked, right? Immigrants, are they being fulfilled in the workplace? Are their skills being maximized? Are their educational experiences being maximized? Are their qualifications being minimized? Right? These are the questions that we ought to be asking. And for us to be able to compete as a workplace, for the Canadian workplace to be able to compete, it has to be all inclusive. It has to make sure that it is maximizing all of the talents within its reach, right? And that's being inclusive of the youth that has so much ideas and so much passion and so much to give. They need to be encouraged. They need to be supported. That's what it means by the need to be inclusive, right? The workplace needs to be inclusive so that it has the capacity to compete against other companies and other economies in this global economy. And this is a very critical point. And the final trend is the need for immigration, right? The need for immigration. And this need is very pronounced today because the Canadian workplace is a very dynamic workplace. It's in the top 10 in the world, but it doesn't have the manpower it needs to move it forward. And the reason for that are many. One, the Canadian families are not producing enough. The reproductive rate in the Canadian family is 1.66, which is not enough per household, which is not enough to move the economy forward. And that's why they have to look towards immigration. And also it has one of the oldest workforces amongst the Western countries, which the average age of the Canadian worker is 49, which means in the next 10 to 15 years there will be mass retirements. And the question is, who is going to replace those workers when they retire? Right? And that's where new immigration comes in. And that's why immigrants are very important to the Canadian workplace. And not just any immigrants, but immigrants that are qualified, that will bring skills and will bring knowledge and experience to the workplace. They are young and they will be able to pay taxes for a very long time to support the Canadian economy. That's why Canada brings in so many immigrants, because one, its reproductive rate is very low, 1.66. That is not enough to run an economy, and if that's not enough, then you have to look towards immigration. Qualified immigrants, young qualified immigrants that will come and fill those vacant spots that are expected by the massive retirements because of the high average age in the Canadian workplace. And these young folks then will pay taxes for a long time to support the government in its big programs of universal health, universal education, welfare programs, infrastructural developments, and so forth. These are the key trends in the Canadian workplace: the need for higher education, contract versus full-time, networking, rise in self-employment, rise in technology, the need to be inclusive of all segments in our society. Let's put that here: need to be inclusive of all segments in society, and the need for immigration, the need for immigrants. These 7 key trends define the Canadian workplace, and it's important for those that want to be successful in this workplace, that want to get in and be successful in this workplace, to be aware of these trends and to adjust accordingly.